enjoy this. And in the next 30 minutes, we are going to be talking about some things that I hope will be of interest to you, and that will be helpful to you when you go out into the real world and, apply for jobs, etc. So some of the people that we have on here today will be sharing advice, and we'll be doing it actually in both ways. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to be talking really about a little bit about both the business acumen perspective from the millennial perspective, as well as from the organizational perspective. And so by business acumen, we'll be defining that in just a moment, but we'll be discussing what we think you need to know to be successful, when you first start your job, your employment. We'll be talking about what we think employers want you to know, what they need employees to know when they come in, starting off. And we'll do this kind of in a speed coaching way, which means that in the next 30 minutes, literally, we'll be giving you both some tips as well as some resources that we believe will help you as you move forward, start your new jobs, go through interviewing, and et cetera. So I think a good way to start out is to define what business acumen is. And so we're going to call this kind of Business Acumen 101. And so there is an organization that's called SHRM, that's the Society for Human Resource Management. And they define business literacy as what you see here, that it's really the knowledge and understanding of the financial, accounting, marketing, and operational functions of an organization. So that's one definition. But what's interesting is when I've asked this question, I tend to think of it sometimes as having some of the operational knowledge or financial knowledge about an organization. But interestingly enough, one of the most important maybe characteristics or components that comes up when I've asked people about what do you think basic business acumen is, they will say communication. And so, here's yet another definition, and now I'll ask Paul to talk about this.
Absolutely, and as with all good terms, there are more than one definition, especially when we're talking about business terms. And I like this one especially: the ability to make good judgments and quick decisions. The concept, of course, of business literacy is the ability to do business, and that requires that we do not only judgment, but good judgment, good decision making, but also that it be timely. So I especially like this definition by the Oxford English Dictionary.
And I'm actually going to then take both of these definitions as well as what we hear from people, both employers, organizations, and then millennials or new employees, and kind of put it together and say that this is really what business acumen is. It's about having what we call business savvy and maybe some good business sense. It's being able to make decisions, using, again, some good business knowledge and a sense of what you think is right. And kind of a big picture, but an important way to look at it would be to know how your role as an employee is connected to the purpose, to the profitability, and to the performance of the company. So those would be really important ideas, is how is your role connected to the purpose, the profitability, and performance of the company? And so employers want you to know, what the company is here for, what they're trying to accomplish, and somehow everyone's job there is connected. So understanding that, I think, helps with achieving this, what we call business savvy, and then having a good sense of the business. But let's talk a little bit further here about specifically what this means, and Paul's going to talk about these things.
Well, and I think to tag on to what Maureen just said, it's important for everyone to know why as well as what and how. And part of the why, what, and how scenario is the jargon that's used in business. And unless we've taken a business course, and perhaps many of you have, some of this language is absolutely jargon because we may have heard it in the business context, but we're not sure what it means. So when you look on the left-hand side, you'll see that those words or those letters all have a business meaning. And rather than go through those and bore you with those business meanings, we're going to list those on our website, that's dicet.net, for you to go and use as a glossary. So if one of these terms you don't know or are not familiar with, feel free to visit and see our definition in that glossary. However, you'll note that in pink, we've identified one of those that we believe and I think most people would agree, is very important in any business context, and that's the ability to effectively communicate. Without that, relationship building, being able to get the job done, understanding what the job is all about and the purpose of the job gets lost. So obviously anyone entering into the business sphere needs very much to be an effective communicator. And by the way, we at this point in our lives, I hope, even though I'm very bad at it, we know that communicating is not all about speaking. It's about speaking, but also about listening. So again, our glossary at the website, geist.net. Take a look, see what those terms mean. If you still have any questions about them, please give us an opportunity to respond to any of those questions by emailing us or phoning us. However, to the right, you'll see what we conclude is absolutely essential for anyone in any business that is serious and committed to the business concept. And that is, first, who is your customer? Without that, you cannot form the context of a conversation or the context of delivery of service. So you have to know who your customer is. By the way, if you don't know, you need to find out. That's done in a variety of ways. Most businesses are obviously interested in profiling their customers, finding out what their needs are. But that's absolutely required as you enter into a business or if you've been in the business, redefining the customer. Second, what's your product or service? Obviously, if you just have a one-word answer for that, probably not sufficient. You really need to be talking about product and services in the context of fulfilling the needs of the customer base. So we go back to customer one, know the customer, know their needs. Second, connect the product or service to the customer's needs. Third, your competition. Obviously, your competition should not dictate what you do, but you should be aware of what they are doing in the marketplace. Maybe something that you also would like to do. As Picasso said, artist copy, good artists steal. The concept in business is if your competition is doing something that's not proprietary or trademarked or copyrighted, it may be a business practice that you need to know about to make a determination as to whether or not it suits your business. And finally, your company strategic plan. We often don't know what that is. What direction are we headed? What are our goals in both short term and long term? How are we going to get there? What tactics are we going to use? So the reality is, if you don't know that strategic plan, you need to find out what it is.
Thanks, Paul. And in the meantime, a couple of things here is I just put a poll out there and I asked how many of you know what your organization's mission statement is. And I'm going to report the results of that poll to you right now. But I'm going to pose another question to you. So Paul did put up some different business terms that you may have heard. I'm going to ask you, millennials, are there any business terms that you've heard and you want to know? And if so, go ahead and type them in the chat box. And if we can't describe them here, we'll provide that on our website. And companies, are there business terms or knowledge that you think your employees should know? So, I think about when I first started back working for IBM. I worked for IBM in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There were quite a few things that I didn't know. I really learned so much about business at that time. Even there's so many acronyms that companies use. You think about IBM, International Business Machines. Knowing what the job positions are. CFO, COO, CLO. Those are all positions that you'll find in a lot of companies today. So the Chief Executive Officer, Chief Financial Officer, Chief Learning Officer, and so on. So I think back to this idea about the mission statement too, as Paul talked about. It's if we know what that mission is, and there are companies or organizations that make sure their employees do know that, it really should be, again, everything we do somehow should be connected to that. So I think about McDonald's as an example. They've got a pretty simple corporate global mission statement, and it's to be our customers' favorite place and way to eat and drink. So if you think about that, it means probably a lot more than maybe just eating and drinking. It talks about an experience, really. And I know some of you attend Lewis University, and Lewis University, its mission statement, guided by its Catholic and Lasallian heritage, provides to a diverse student population programs of a liberal and professional education grounded in the interaction of knowledge and fidelity in the search for truth. And I think about a company like Southwest Airlines, which has been, extremely profitable, and they have great customer service ratings. They operate what they call with a warrior spirit, a servant's heart, and a fun-loving attitude. They say that their mission is dedication to the highest quality of customer service, delivered with a sense of warmth, friendliness, individual pride, and company spirit. So I think when you think about something like that, it's easy to understand as an employee, what the company stands for, and thus to how to bring that to life in whatever I might do, whether I am, flying the plane or fixing the plane. So.
And where might you be able to find those if you were looking to find out what an organization's mission was?
It's a good question, and it's kind of fun to do that. You can do a Google search.
Yep.
And there was a list of companies recently published by an Aon study, and it was the top company for leaders. And is companies like GE, International Business Machines, and it's kind of fun to look at some of those top companies and see what their mission statement is. And it's funny. So one of the ones that I found, and I know a lot of us like Panera, and I could ask you a question right now, but their mission statement is kind of a funny one, and it's literally a loaf of bread in every arm. A loaf of bread in every arm. And so, I don't think about a loaf of bread, but that's how they sort of started out. So I think it's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So now we're also going to talk a little bit about, I think, Brittany, if you could talk about this, here's some new terms that all of you millennials out there might know.
Yeah, we've talked a little bit about terms that millennials should take some time to research and know before they're looking to apply within the business world. But it's also important for those who are in the business world to also know what us millennial are using on a daily basis. Terms like this, and it's important just in terms of communication and communicating effectively to understand that not only are new words constantly being created, but words are changing meaning. So a word here on the list is literally, and that's a word that's definitely changed over time. And it's important to know how it is used today and to, instead of being angry about it, kind of embrace the fact that words do change, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. And you'll see at the bottom here a little pound sign, you might call it, or as we call it today, hashtag. It's just simple things that can help communicate better between anybody in your business. And so take a look at these words here. Make sure that you're up to date and know what's going on before you head out into the professional world or kind of try to hire people today.
And so, Brittany, could you tell us what literally means?
Well, we used to think that it meant something was actually happening. So we're literally sitting here doing a WebinWow right now, but we use it more today as that was literally the best piece of cake I ever had.
Okay.
And it's just a way to exaggerate, I think, today, to emphasize the activity that you're doing or what you're experiencing.
Okay. And then I'm putting you on the spot here about bay, but whenever I've used that word, and I don't necessarily use it, but I'll just say it, and people do just what you're doing, is they'll chuckle at me. Yes. So they're laughing when I use the word bay.
Oh, and I'm not saying go around and try to use these in your everyday speech. I laugh at the word at bay because I just think that it's hilarious and horrific at the same time. But it is something that's relevant today and that people are using even in joke form, which is important to know if it is the butt of the joke.
And it is an acronym, and so go ahead and tell us. Do you remember
before anyone else.
Right, before anyone else, right. So good. So thanks. And thanks for not chuckling too much with that. And so I'm curious, too, I'm going to ask another question. Millennials, are there other words out there that you think we should add to that list? If so, will you go ahead and type them in the chat box? Yeah. And then companies, are there words out there that you've heard and you would like to know more about? So that's one of the reasons we put YOLO up there. I know that's sometimes overused, but I have people ask me, well, wait, what does that mean? And, you only live once.
Yep.
And there are a lot of people that still, believe in that and like to maybe even live their lives by that. So we put that in there. But if there's other words out there that you'd like to know or like to share with us, please go ahead and do that. And so what I'd like to do maybe now is come up with some tips. And Paul, if you could take this for us.
I certainly will. First, the concept of onboarding. I won't make the assumption that everyone's heard it or understands it, but the reality is that as you come on board with a company, if you've been hired, obviously otherwise you wouldn't be, you need to understand that mindset and attitude and behavior absolutely factor into how quickly you're going to be accepted by that culture. Every organization has its own culture, but these are pretty standard for any culture. So as you enter that work environment, you need to be aware of these tips. First, you need to listen. All around you, information is being given to you if you're aware that that's what it is. But you have to be listening to find that information as it comes your way. So always be listening. We have a tendency, and I know I'm a recovering lawyer, my tendency is to just talk too much. The reality is, if we listen in the workplace, we find the answers to the questions and concerns that we have being given to us, often by some unlikely sources. But they're sources of information we should be paying attention to. Second, be grateful. The opportunity, be appreciative. The opportunity is to appreciate the fact that you have joined an organization, that you've become a part of a team, that opportunities are going to be presented to you, that in return for your performance, you'll be given the opportunity to develop, to enjoy that atmosphere, and to enjoy the purpose of the work. So being appreciative and showing that is certainly a very good way to inculcate and join that culture. The third thing is smile. We've talked about that in prior WebinWows. The value of a smile cannot be overestimated. It truly matters that you have a positive attitude and that you show that positive attitude by that smile, by your facial expressions, by your use of language. The reality is people love to see other people smile. It brightens their day. It makes them look at you with a different perspective. Learn. The opportunity to learn in a new position at a new company abounds. But rather than wait for somebody to teach you, you need to be proactive. Don't be reactive when it comes to learning. That doesn't mean that you have to be aggressive about it, but you do want to be assertive. You want to show that you want to find out about this organization. You want to accumulate information so you can be a part of that high-performance work team. The positive attitude goes along with the smile. I've already mentioned that. And be a sponge. You know, we've got SpongeBob up there, plus we have a stack of sponges. And the reality is that you're entitled to your opinion, but before you can have that opinion, you have to have information. So absolutely listen, be appreciative, smile, learn, have a positive attitude, and soak it all in. Be all about the experience. Be in the moment. Appreciate it, enjoy it, and it'll return dividends.
Yeah, so actually, Paul, Brittany and I are trying to decide if we think you're more like SpongeBob or like the stack of sponges.
Yeah, there's no question. I'm definitely a SpongeBob. In fact, those are my pants.
Okay, that's way too much information. Way too much information.
At least I'm wearing pants, Maureen.
Okay, I'm moving on to the next slide. That is that. I am going to reinforce that idea about the positive attitude, though. And, you know, here again, I think that if you read anything about emotional intelligence, which is very important, you know, to be successful in the workforce today, they'll say that, you know, your positive attitude and the mood of the manager, it's contagious. And so having that positive attitude, not being a Debbie Downer, you know, is a very important idea. So, you know, I wanted to reinforce that. So here's some tips, best practices. This is what we're reading. Paul and I have both done a lot of research on millennials, you know, through our own primary research, as well as looking at the stuff that's out there. You know, there's a big survey done out in Silicon Valley with over 1,200 respondents. We, of course, between us have taught thousands of millennials over the years. We own a few, you know, between us. And some of the things that, that we are hearing that will help successfully, you know, onboard millennials, and that means going through orientation and training. First of all, company culture. You know, I think millennials need to know more about the company culture and understand what that is. They need to, and I like this, it's actually another consultant that has used this term, Vern Lee, who's given me this term, and basically saying, you know, this is how we do things around here. That's a pretty simple way to figure things out. And that's good for all of us to know this is how we do things around here. And then we can choose, you know, do we fit in, do we not? But at least now we know. We see it's very important for success in onboarding if there's some sort of mentoring that goes on. And, formal or informal mentoring programs, as well as coaching. And then, some sort of a peer buddy. So a buddy, somebody that can be there. If you have a question and you feel like, This is kind of a stupid question, and I don't want to ask anybody. If you have a peer, buddy, somebody who's been through this before, that makes it safe to go to them and say, help me through this, or how about this paperwork, or what do I do with this, or where are the pencils? Of course, company tours. A lot of companies today are doing some sort of a business simulation to onboard employees, and there's, with gamification, there's a lot of fun and easy ways to do that. Communication is big. Again, millennials and our new employees, I don't think that, there's too much communication that we can give, perhaps, but I think we err on the opposite side. And communication is very important, especially to our new young generation. Today, important, success factors, the technology to successfully do jobs, to have performance objectives. What am I doing? What's my purpose and what's the rationale? Again, how is it connected to the company? So we all should have performance objectives. And actually there are times when that doesn't happen for weeks or months, and thus there's some ambiguity on the part of the employee. There should be a development plan. And a development plan is, how can I develop and grow more professionally and personally? And that's very important to, to the millennials.
We want to know what we're doing right and what we're doing wrong. And if we are doing something wrong, how can we fix it?
And that's a good point, Brittany. And I hear people say this all the time, that you're okay about getting feedback. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you want to fix it. You want feedback. You want to understand the purpose. And then, yes, millennials do want opportunity. They want opportunity for growth, for learning, and they want opportunity maybe for additional responsibility, for change. And so, that idea about, having opportunity, and the best way we can do that is communicate and find that out. So those are some tips. By the way, all of this will be on our website. And as Paul mentioned, it's www.dice-t, which is on here, but you'll find all this information on our website as well. So let's start talking about some resources here. And Paul's going to mention these. Oh, no, I think I'll talk about these. Sorry. I'll talk about the assessments. And Paul, if you would, the next one. So I think one of the most important things that can be helpful to better understand ourselves, how we fit into an organization, what our communication styles are, leadership styles, teamwork, is to take an assessment. And I am a big fan of the Myers-Briggs MBTI. And in fact, if I'm not going to steal Brittany's thunder here, but if you stay on, we always give away a prize before the end of the webinar. And today we will be giving away an online assessment. You'll be able to take the Myers-Briggs, and then I'll do a follow-up coaching one-on-one phone session with you. So it's the most widely used personality assessment tool in the world. About 70% of the Fortune 500 companies use this in leadership development. About 80% of Fortune 100 companies use it. About 3 million people take it each year, the Myers-Briggs. DISC is another one. I personally love Strength Finders 2.0. I think that is a excellent tool, for, really anyone to take at any point in their career. It tells us about our strengths. And I do like this new Emotional Intelligence 2.0 book that's very recently come out. It uses the most popular emotional intelligence assessment that's out there. So those are some resources that I will mention.
And Maureen, we've talked about this. This isn't things that are only available for us as people who are seeking jobs to do, but it's something that an organization can offer, not probably part of the resume or pre-hiring, but something once you do get the job to help find your strengths and just better yourself within the organization.
Absolutely. So good thing.
And let me chime in also. The emotional intelligence aspect, while relatively new, has been shown to be a huge indicator about ability to lead. So as you work your way into the workforce, and you need to know what skill set to have, this is clearly one of them. And the interesting part, of course, is that this is a learned skill set. You can improve your emotional intelligence. So I would agree with both Brittany and Maureen that these assessments are essential for people to know themselves and know how they fit into the organization and know what behaviors are going to advance them through the organization. And now we've got our resources for millennials, interesting, plenty of resources out there. You'll note that we've put some books up the first 90 days, even though that applies primarily to people who are moving from one position to a managerial position. The reality is that information also is good stuff for entering the workforce. Crucial conversations, they occur throughout your career at any organization. Those important conversations that require a certain amount of tact as well as recognition. Strongly recommend Crucial Conversations. Drive by Daniel Pink, one of my favorite books since it deals with motivation and behavior. Understanding motivation, understanding behavior, I believe is essential for people as they, again, develop and move forward in an organization. Lean In, I'm sure everyone's heard about that, but for graduates, it's a update by Sheryl Sandberg, something that clearly is beneficial, especially for women. Seeing the big picture and from day one. Yes, so you see, the opportunity, of course, to use resources extends beyond the written word. Clearly, the resources through peers, through mentors, through coaches are all available. Progressive companies have these resources available for employees, and certainly take advantage of that. It's always interesting that we often see that there are resources, but we don't believe we should either take them for any reason, or we don't have the time. We're engaged in something else. So be aware that the resources exist. Seek them out. Be a reader. That old hack of readers are leaders still applies. So even if you're not reading in paperback form, read anyway. It'll definitely give you ideas, concepts that you can use in the workplace.
Some other great resources here. Your parents or your friends' parents or your significant other's parents or anyone who can give you advice, who's kind of done what you're looking to do already. Friends who you're currently working with, you worked with in the past. A great way to reach out to these friends is through Facebook, checking in to see what they're doing, where are they applying, where have they left, what are they liking, what are they not liking. YouTube is a great source for finding tips on from what to wear to an interview, or what a particular mission statement is of an organization, because a lot of them are making YouTube videos on this. And another great tool is Reddit. If you have a specific question and you're looking to get a mass answer, kind of check out there, see what they have, what they're talking about, and just Google it. If you don't know,
Right.
Just Google it.
When in doubt. Yeah, and of course on the job training, like Brittany said.
Absolutely good advice, Brittany. Resources for companies. You'll see again, we've listed magazines, we've listed 2020 Workplace, which we believe is essential for any organization as they look at the increasing level of millennial participation in the workforce. Also, take a look at the left-hand side. Obviously, we're pitching ourselves. Dice Tea. Maureen and I have a vast experience both with organizations, companies, and with millennials in putting those two together in a productive fashion. Get Abstract basically reduces the book down to a very readable 10 pages or less. SHREM, Maureen had mentioned earlier, Society for Human Resources Management, and ATD is Association for Talent Development. Plenty of resources for employers and organizations. Let me add one more. Talk to the new person. Talk to the person who's been hired, who's been there 30, 60, 90 days. Get their opinion about the organization. That's a resource for employers that's often overlooked. We've got some upcoming venues we'd like to make you aware of. Meet the Millennials, presentations that are done by Maureen and myself. You'll note that they're informative, strategic. We do best practices. We do research, tips, tools, techniques, strategy in 45 minutes. As you can tell, we've adopted the TED Talk format to a certain degree. We like to get the pertinent information out in an edutaining, educating, and entertaining fashion. And we like to get those pertinent items in your wheelhouse so you can actually use them. Upcoming WebinWow, we've got one on December 18th, Employee Edutainment and Engagement. Strongly urge everyone to attend that one. Finally, some speed coaching. We'll be doing some biz and brews. That'll give everybody the opportunity to see us in informal session at either organizations or places throughout Chicago. Finally, check out our website, articles, resources, inspiration, and more. We are a resource for organizations and for millennials. Stay tuned to that website. We're constantly adding material that's valuable. And finally, my favorite slide of all, those fascinating millennials. We love them, they love them, and so should you.
So with that, I'm going to say thank you, everybody, for attending today. Signing off here from Chicago and Arizona at the same time. And before we completely sign off, we do have one winner, and that is for an MBTI, and that would be Alexis. And it's Alexis. If you could you stay on the line, Alexis Keedy, if you stay on the line, and we will give you information on how to access that. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Bye bye for now.
Thanks, everyone.